The state of Florida is always an important place to focus on college football with maybe four major schools in the Sunshine State. Right now, it's an intriguing. It's always important. It's been elite in the past. It's been a focal point of college football history and talent, recruiting, championships in the past. I don't know if we can find a time in which Florida football, meaning the state of Florida football on the collegiate level, was in a more precarious state, a more unstable state than it's been for the past couple of years. Who's any good in Florida right now? Who is any good between Florida, Florida State, Miami, and UCF? Welcome to the party. Thank you for your contribution tonight in one of the more intriguing and possibly important, unique bowl matchups of the bowl season at the Gasparilla Bowl tonight. Welcome into the Voice of College Football, everyone. And we just took in UCF's win over Florida as the Group of Five team wore down the SEC Power Five team. The Group of Five team had the running back from the Big Ten Northwestern, Isaiah Bowser, second season at UCF, wearing down the Gators in the second half. Interesting ball game. Pretty entertaining ball game as well. A packed house in Tampa to take on, to witness UCF going to 9-4 with a win, a big one for UCF. Knew it was going to be a big one in the sight of UCF. I think Florida came and they played hard and they gave it a good go, but they go down to UCF final of 29-17. 29-17 UCF finishes 9-4. The Gators fall to 6-7. And now, since the clock did strike zero on that game, it's now Billy Napier's team, his program, his deal, and he's actually off to a good start. As we presented to you earlier today, courtesy David Waters from Gators Breakdown, please check out that video on Florida football. Florida, Florida State, Miami, UCF. Interesting topic there. I'm asked that from time to time. Which of those programs, and it's usually presented to me as Florida, Florida State, Miami, who is positioned best to jump back to the elite, to the top end, to the cream of the crop of college football. But you got to throw UCF in there. We now have 4 Power Fives, with UCF, of course, going to the Big 12. Check out the conversation we had with Jeff Sharon from SB Nation on UCF. That was posted earlier this week. That's a good listen. And also, again, David Waters, Gators Breakdown on Florida. Florida and UCF. The game was played tonight, but the stories continue to unfold for those two programs. And we saw one Emory Jones auditioning as a transfer portal quarterback for Florida tonight. I don't know that the audition went rather well. Welcome into the Voice of College Football once again. I will get to your comments and questions, of course, in the live chat. We're going to run down the news of the day. Bowl games, Frisco Bowl, the first ever and the last ever Frisco Bowl. We needed an extra bowl game, so we added one, and we got the Frisco Bowl. And we got a couple 6-6 teams, North Texas. Northwestern had already left my mouth a few minutes ago with Isaiah Bowser. North Texas and Miami of Ohio. The Red Hawks win. They win their first bowl game in 11 years, which led me to think, okay, both Miami struggling to win bowl games. The Red Hawks for the first time in 11 years. The other Miami squad, the one in Florida, 1-11 in its last 12 bowl trips, taking on Washington State next week. Let's get to the phone lines here at the Voice of College Football and welcome in our first call of the night. And you are up.
Hey, Mark, it's the real MVP. How you doing?
I am doing well. And how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great.
Good.
I mean, that was a great game between UCF and Florida.
I was looking forward to that. It was good to see people in the stands at a bowl game. A couple Florida teams going at it. A little juice. Players apparently were into it, maybe a little bit too much at times, pushing and shoving. And one particular phantom punch that was thrown, I don't know if you saw that. I don't think that Florida player should have been, Hopper should have been thrown out of the game. That wasn't a punch in my estimation.
No, it wasn't in mine either.
He pushed the guy.
And, right. I think that call is less, it was a bad call. That's all it was to it. But did it change the outcome of the game? No. So, I'm really happy for UCF. This, in my opinion, solidifies UCF in the state of Florida for recruiting purposes. If they had lost this game, the narrative would have been, well, UCF, they're a group of 5 school. They can never compete with the actual big boys in the Power 5 of Florida. But with this one, through transitive property, they're the best team in the state of Florida right now. So, congrats to the Golden Knights, man. Does this win mean more to the UCF fans than the Peach Bowl win? I get the Peach Bowl is a bigger win, but beating an in-state rival like Florida, it's got to feel good.
Yeah, so there are all sorts of connections to be made there. Of course, Gus Malzahn delivered a win, but he also had to take the loss in the Peach Bowl as the Auburn coach. This is the most important because this is the most recent. This is the one that we're dealing with right now. And the other aspect of this is that UCF has shown that they, at least temporarily, can play on the big stage in the past. They are not Coastal Carolina. They're not new to this. They are not still trying to prove that they can play at this level. So Coastal Carolina, Louisiana, they're nice stories. They're good teams for their level. They're great teams for their level, but they have yet to show that they can play with the big boys. UCF, not this particular team that's on the field here in 2021, but the program has shown that they have the resources, the capabilities to play. They have a long history now. When I mean a long history, I'm not talking about in the context of college football history, but a substantial number of years that they have scheduled Power 5 games, that they've played Power 5 teams in bowl games and major bowl games at times, not just that Peach Bowl, but a Fiesta Bowl about 8 years ago and beat Baylor, that they can compete and win their fair share of these games against the Power 5.
And the next question I would like to ask you, Mark, is the SEC in bowl games is now 0-2.
Yeah.
They have both lost to independent/group of 5 schools. I'm hearing that narrative on Twitter that this confirms SEC bias. There's SEC bias everywhere because it's being exposed by the bowl season. What are your thoughts on that?
I've got to see the rest of the bowl games. I can't go on Missouri and Florida, 2 6-6 teams. It's not a good showing for the SEC. Absolutely. They count. So they are taken into consideration, but I'm not making a declaration on any of the Power 5 conferences. Some of the group of 5 have played most of their bowl games, but I'm not making a declaration on the SEC because their 2 worst bowl teams lost to Army and UCF. I don't think it's a great look, but also we got to consider that. So the third or fourth best team in the American Conference, probably the third or fourth best team, definitely not in the top 2, with Cincinnati and Houston played. The team
I put SMU above them.
Okay. I don't know if they played this year, but anyway, against whatever the 11th or 12th best team in the SEC. So yeah, it's not good, but yeah, I'm not making a judgment on the SEC based on Florida and Missouri playing bowl games without prominent players playing as well. We got to consider that. Florida played without a number of players, not a drove of players sat out, but they had a couple of key players sit. Missouri had the best running back, their best running back, and one of the best, probably 20 running backs in college football sit out last night. So there's that. The other teams don't have anyone sit out.
Right. And the final thing I would like to comment on that first. I think a lot of people live in the instant hot take age of the world, and people just like to first off see the SEC fail, and then they like the instant hot glorified take. So anytime they can get prove their narrative, even if it's grasping at straws, they'll go for it. Final thing I would like to ask you, Mark, or to the final two things, is what are your thoughts about the Hawaii Bowl being canceled because of Hawaii having COVID?
Oh, I hadn't seen that. There it is. I do see it now. Well, that's too bad. That's about my only thought. What thought can you have? There was a bowl game, and one of the teams have either a number of players that I don't know who determined it, but probably Hawaii. That's how it typically goes. That's the way it went with Texas A&M, is that the team in question determines that they don't have enough players to go. So there we don't have Hawaii playing in the Hawaii Bowl, and no Hawaii Bowl this year. I don't know how many bowl games we missed last year. It was a slew of them, about 15, something in that range.
And the final thing I would like to ask you is, have you seen the committee's safety net plan just in case if a team has an outbreak during the playoffs?
Yes.
I don't like it. I think it's a horrible idea to cancel playoff games, especially saying that it has to be at this date at this time. I don't get that. Maybe there's something in the contracts I'm missing, because here's a scenario. Let's say Alabama plays Cincinnati and Alabama wins 45-3, okay? They just obliterate them like most people expect. 20 minutes before Michigan, Georgia, it turns out that both teams caught it and they can't play the game. Well, Alabama would be declared national champions without even knowing they were in the title game. So you could have a national champion this year without even knowing they're in the title game. That just doesn't sit right with me.
Well, it's not like they're playing the Belk Bowl and just playing some kind of bowl game, and then afterwards 28 teams get eliminated and they're the national champion. They know that they're playing an elimination game for the national championship. They know that they're playing a game that they have to win the national championship. This game's just as important as the national championship game. You could argue it's more important. You have to win it to go to the national championship game. So I don't think that's really. I don't like it. I don't like that two teams could get eliminated, or look at the other possibility that one of the two teams gets COVID. Therefore, one of the teams has to advance to the national championship by winning. The other team gets just an automatic berth, forfeit win.
Right.
Well, that's not fair either.
Right.
But what do you do? Just wait around. You just want them to wait around until everybody's healthy.
No. I'm just saying you having it on that date, saying this game must be played at 3:30 and 7:30 seems a little bit ridiculous. You can't be flexible by a week or two. Be like, okay, we'll give it a week. We'll say if it's not January 7th, and then we'll forfeit the game. That way the program has time to evaluate within themselves to determine if they can play the game. Or if possibly they could get somebody else in there. Like, I know we're not living in a perfect world or anything, but for Cincinnati, let's say they get it. I wouldn't mind seeing them throw Notre Dame in there just for the sake of it. Seeing somebody else have them have an opponent, because I would rather at least have a playoff game than not have a playoff game at all.
Sure. But, okay, so we've got these games on New Year's Eve. And so you're saying basically if under your guidelines that if I want to do everything possible to play these games as well, and if it didn't involve people traveling, people being healthy, if it didn't involve any of that, if we were playing on a video game, I'd say absolutely. Let's wait until March if we need to, and get these teams on the field to play a national championship game. But so what happens if the game gets canceled and under your guidelines it gets rescheduled for a week later, and then we have to cancel it again, or only one of the two teams can make it? That we saw that happen repeated times last season with different teams where they couldn't play one week. We thought they might be able to make it back the next week, and then boop, lo and behold, on Thursday, nope, they can't play. You have like major movements that have to be made by different individuals and groups of fans and all sorts of things to turn on the lights at a stadium and play a game. You can't just say we're walking down the street to play down the street on the corner at whatever time we decide. Like, it takes
well, I get that.
major decisions to schedule a football game.
I get that. Well, maybe I'll step back away from the point. I'll step back and say maybe they should have planned this out a little bit sooner, before 2 weeks to go left and before the playoffs. I mean,
why would that have changed anything?
Well, I feel like this is just a hodgepodge plan, and that way the teams can know what's going to happen. I mean, you're throwing these new rules with 10 days left to go. I mean,
I don't have a better plan. If I had a better plan, you certainly would hear about it. And I haven't really thought about it. I heard it and thought, yeah, I would like a better conclusion than that. I would like better guidelines, but can I come up with them? Again, I didn't sit here and give it 5 hours of thought, which maybe I should, but so I haven't come up with a better guideline. Am I crazy about the guidelines either? No, not crazy about the guidelines. I'm not crazy about awarding a team a championship after the fact, like you just outlined. I'm not crazy about one team getting a free pass into the championship game and the other team having to beat a good team to get to the championship game. So those are the two things that competitively aren't fair.
Right. So I hope the playoff games are played first and foremost. I hope they're played. I hope they're good games. I mean, even though, let's be real, Alabama and Cincinnati's not going to be a good game. I hope everybody stays safe and stays healthy. And congratulations to Army, UCF, and Miami of Ohio for winning their bowl game.
There you go.
Yeah. Like the video, guys. Like the video.
You heard it right from the real MVP. All right, man. If I don't talk to you, Merry Christmas, and we will talk soon.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you, Mark.
There you have it. So I was just looking for maybe an alternate plan there, and I don't expect a real MVP to come up with that. These decisions are made. These decisions are made by a lot of people that should know what they're doing. They should be taking all sorts of logistics into consideration. They should be taking the athletes into consideration, the coaches, the fans, all the facilities. All of that should be taken into consideration. And that's what they've come up with. So I don't have a better plan. I'm sure some of you will have your ideas, and I would like to hear them if you so choose to deliver a better guideline than what they've come up with. But I'm not seeing it right now. Let's take our next call here at the Voice of College Football. I would like to get to the news of the day as well. We will do that after this call. Welcome aboard. Who's on the line?
Hey, what's up, Mark? It's Ballard Sports Media. Merry Christmas. How you doing?
Merry Christmas, Ballard. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Ready for the holidays and everything. Christmas Eve tomorrow. I will say this, I do want to talk a little bit about, this UCF Florida game. I'll tell you what, I think it was a good year coaching for Malzahn. with the first season at Central Florida. And I think, and I'll ask you this, my question for you is about Florida, and I want to look at the Houston-Auburn game. But do you think that maybe the coaching and Dan Mullen stuff and bringing in a new head coach and everything, do you think it kind of, with it being so recent and close to the bowl game, like within the past week, is it possible that maybe that played a little bit of a factor for Florida just with the new system and everything in this bowl game, that they just, it just wasn't too competitive for them?
Oh, sure. It had a large impact on the game. They had a different head coach. They had They had a number of coaches who were most of the coaches were still in play. And had to be reassigned, of course. They lost their head coach. I don't know that it had a catastrophic impact, especially since they've been without their coach. They played another game, so we're not talking about a coach that got fired a week ago. They played Florida State without Dan Mullen.
That is true. I think that it did play a factor. I mean, you got to think. I mean, they had a lot of the same players or whatever, so they. I mean, there's really no excuse. I mean, you can sit there and say, "Oh, well, it's a new coach. It's whatever." But I mean, they probably would have lost the game with Dan Mullen, in my opinion, anyway. But again, I give credit to Malzahn for what he did with Central Florida. But I'll look at this game real quick. It's about 5 days away. You got the Birmingham Bowl around the corner. I think this might be an interesting one. Houston's 11-2. Auburn is 6-6. But if you look at Auburn, and a couple of them were close outside of the A&M game, but they are on a 4-game losing streak. I know Bo Nix is out. He's now transferring. Auburn is favored by 2.5 in this game. And looking at the FPI on ESPN, they got about a 59.5% chance. Do you think this is where Auburn closes the season out with Brian Harsin in his first year on a good note, considering just the losing streak that they've had? Did they use it as motivation? Not to mention the last game they played, where they had a chance, but obviously the Tide were able to pull that out. I think Auburn on that losing streak, I mean, it's possible they lose another, but I have a feeling they're going to be pretty hyped up and motivated going into this game.
If Auburn plays anywhere close to its best football, which was beating Ole Miss by 2 scores, which was playing Alabama down to the wire, a game that if Tank Bigsby doesn't run out of bounds, they beat Alabama. Or if he doesn't run out of bounds, Brian Harsin, he's looking at a season that's going to be a disappointment. It's not surprising me. I picked Auburn to go 6-6. I think that he's a good football coach.
You got it.
I think he's a good football coach. I think they're fine. He's got a lot of work to do. They're not anywhere close to being a championship contender in that conference, but they have a good talent. The last I checked, their recruiting for this cycle wasn't great, so I don't know what's going on there.
Right.
But this is a pretty big game for Auburn. I think that there's going to be a ton of grumbling if they go into an off season and have to survive from December to September with 5 consecutive losses. And nobody in the SEC is happy about losing to a group of 5 team in particular. That's just, there's a level of embarrassment, even though I don't know that there should be a level of embarrassment there. Gus Malzahn took a 7-5 Auburn team in the Birmingham Bowl against Memphis about 5 years ago and won that game. It was a decent game. So
Yeah.
TJ Finley's going to be a quarterback, right? I haven't really looked into it, but the last we saw him, he was hobbling
I
around
think
against
so.
Alabama, and I don't have a whole lot of confidence in him, but he better be at least healthy. They can't roll him out in the same condition he was in. We're talking about the last Saturday of November versus so he's got about a month to heal. So I gotta think that he's going to be physically in one piece to play quarterback. Otherwise, they can't play him.
Right. Well, unless something else has happened to him since that Iron Bowl, maybe in a practice or something, I'm sure he'll be okay to go in and play the game. He might not be 100%, but I think if they could get him out there and rolling and get off to a good start in this game offensively, which has been okay, this year, but I think if they could go out there and get off to a good start offensively and TJ Finley's doing okay, I think Auburn might have a chance. And, I would definitely say, for Brian Harston, first off, for Auburn to be 6-6, not a lot of people thought they would do too well. And, I don't know. I went with a bold claim that they'd probably end up 7-5, which I was one game off. But I think really, they just have had some tough losses. They're not even bad losses, but when you look at it, Auburn's I feel like even still they're a little bit better on paper. But I think getting a bowl win over Houston, regardless of score or whatever, I think it'll be great. And I do think Brian Harston can do some big things at Auburn if he can just figure out a little bit of recruiting and just get his guys together and come up with a big plan and just a clear vision for the program going forward. I think he could take them places, but obviously right now kind of in a slow and just a rough start in a hole. But I think this game, especially to beat a team ranked number 20, 11-2 in Houston, that would be a big win for them right now.
I have little doubt in my mind that if
could
Auburn was going to show up to this game and they had their full complement of their team for 2021, meaning Bo Nix, their starting quarterback, Tank Bigsby, their starting running back. I'm looking at an article right now, and I remember looking this over a few days ago, that Broderius Ham, I'm not really familiar with his play, but Roger McCreary is one of the best corners in the SECs. Kobe McLean is their number
He's
one.
good.
Yes, he's extremely good. So they're missing one of the best running backs in the conference. They're missing their starting quarterback. They're missing 3 top defenders. And so that's a considerable doubt. I have no doubt that the 2021 version of Auburn, focused and motivated to play like they did against Penn State and Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss, etc., could beat Houston. They are a better football. They're just more talented. They're better than Houston. I have no doubt that Auburn's one of the top 25 teams in the country if they're fully stocked, and Houston's not. They're just better. But I don't know if they're saying, under these circumstances, I don't know if they win. But
yeah, well, like you're saying, I kind of get what you're saying. If they go into this game and, obviously they have some players out, but if they have the mindset of like, hey, we can go out and prove something to ourselves, to the people, to like, if they go in there and show that they want to be in that game, regardless. Look, Auburn doesn't want to be going 6-6, making the Birmingham Bowl. They want to be, right now, like 9-3 and hitting a New Year's Six Bowl somewhere or something like that. But if they have the attitude that they want to go into this game and they're ready to play, I think they could get this win. And again, like I said, I think that it would, it looks rough on paper, but honestly, just get a bowl win for Brian Harston in his first season, and I think it could possibly just propel him, and he could probably have a successful career at Auburn, I think.
Yeah, he's got a lot of work to do. He's got to recruit. He is facing a monster in the state, and he's facing a number of monsters outside the state in the division. And, if he was at Virginia Tech, if he was at Kansas State, if he was at TCU, if he was at Louisville, he would have a whole different set of parameters and expectations to deal with. But he's at Auburn and he's playing in the SEC Western Division. So I know he's a good football coach. I don't have any doubt about that. But somebody's got to lose the games when they play. I have no doubt that
That's fair.
probably 11 of the teams in the SEC could go and be competitive in the ACC Coastal Division or the Pac-12 South and almost win the division. I have no doubt if we threw a focused LSU team in the Pac-12 South or the ACC Coastal with a good coach, I'm not guaranteeing that they would win the division, but I wouldn't bet against them. So it's a tough conference, and the recruiting is crazy. I think 9 out of the top 20 this particular recruiting cycle, and Brian Harson's going to have to deal with that. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mark, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for taking my call. Merry Christmas to you and everybody at the Voice of College Football, the comment section. Much love to you all. God bless, and thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Ballard. Good night. And yes, I echo Ballard. Merry Christmas, everyone. So we are creeping toward Christmas Eve. So I hope everyone is going to spend the next few days in whatever fashion makes you happy. That's all I'm going to say. I could go on some kind of spiritual rant or something about the holiday. I will not do that. We're talking football. We'll talk about, yes, just spend the holiday, family, friends, in whatever manner, fashion that you enjoy it. I hope that you have a splendid holiday. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line? I do want to talk some Rutgers football, though. I definitely want to talk some Rutgers football. Who's up next? Hello? Going once, going twice. Okay, next up. Next up at the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Am I on, Mark?
You are on.
Hey, Mark. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Who am I speaking with?
This is Alex from Boone, North Carolina.
Alex from Boone. App State fan?
Yep. Yes, I'm an App State and a Michigan fan, actually. Ironically, I guess.
What did you do in 2007? Did you have conflicting feelings?
I was actually like 13 years old at the time, 12, and as a student of App, I didn't obviously have any ties. I was devastated.
Yeah, that was a while ago. So 14 years ago. Okay.
But yeah. Anyways, wanted to talk honestly, Michigan, Georgia. I guess it's kind of Big Ten football, not Rutgers. But Josh Gaddis, I want to be honest with you. I have really trounced his name in the comment section because I really didn't put the blame on Harbaugh for the last couple of years. Like, what do we do? You don't fix something that isn't broke. So, I mean, do we ship him off for a head coaching job, or should Harbaugh keep him on his staff?
Well, Harbaugh wants to keep Josh Gaddis.
Yeah.
But, I heard Dabo Sweeney talk about this the other day with Tony Elliott and Brent Venables moving on, that if you're a successful college football program, you're going to have to be prepared to lose your assistant coaches and your coordinators. You don't want them to leave, but if it's good for them, okay, let's talk people first. Talk about the individuals and their livelihood and what's best for them. You want to see your people thrive and grow and move on and be success. But at the same time, if you're just talking about what's good for the football program, if they're good coaches, what's good for the program is that they stick around.
Very true, very true. Yeah. I just wonder how much was that Gaddis, or because the offense really changed from the first couple games where it was just it looks kind of an odd offense, really run heavy against really forward offenses, and and then it changed a lot, especially the last couple games against Penn State. I wonder how much Gaddis is actually behind that.
When you say it changed,
anyways,
it changed
Mark,
in what ways?
Like, we went a lot more to a pro style and spread, maybe going for like 20 yards to Andrell Anthony, I think, against his debut game was against Michigan State, and he just went absolutely off. We kind of started to rely less on the power run, and we run it a lot more in spread. And we ran it in the shotgun against Ohio State. Like, that was all our touchdowns, really. So I remember is just Haskins to left or right in the shotgun. But
okay.
But yeah, I think the offense got really good at the end, and I really want to keep him. But I really think that, like you made your point, Michigan hasn't been in this position where we haven't had the luxury to keep them. We've either just been firing them or finding someone new. So curious to see where he goes. Where do you think he'll end up if he does leave?
I have no idea. Nobody does. Nobody has any clue where Josh Gaddis is going to go. Nobody has any clue what basically the coaching situation for 2022 has settled. Not that nothing else is going to happen, but it's basically settled. You know, one move can cause dominoes to start to fall. So I don't want to seal that statement for good, because, again, all it takes is one move, and then, of course, somebody leaves, and then somebody's got to be replaced, and it starts to move the dominoes down the line. But I have no idea where Josh Gaddis is going to go. I don't know that anyone has a good guess on that. Where's he going to go? Any position that was open is currently closed.
Exactly. It's speculation. Well, Mark, thanks for taking my call. You have a great night.
Thank you.
And a happy holidays.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. You too. All right. Yeah. Quickly. Just to catch everyone up to date, including myself on this. As the real MVP mentioned, Hawaii, COVID issues, out of the Hawaii Bowl, which is played every New Year's Eve or every Christmas Eve in Hawaii. So Hawaii's out of the Hawaii Bowl. So there is no Hawaii Bowl. So that game's out. I believe that was Memphis and Hawaii playing in that game. So no Hawaii Bowl, unfortunately, for those student athletes. And what has typically been my approach to the Hawaii Bowl is that I'm involved in family stuff, but I usually DVR the Hawaii Bowl. And then if it all depends. Really, really late at night, I may watch it. We saw Justin Shorter, the Penn State transfer to Florida, carted off the field, took a hard hit against UCF. Rutgers in place of Texas A&M. Now, this is the story of the bowl season in terms of oddities. We're going to have a New Year's Day bowl game, the Gator Bowl, played between Wake Forest, who at one point was 9-0, finished 10-3, played in the ACC championship game. And who is going to be their bowl opponent? Rutgers. 5-7 Rutgers. Most likely to be 5-8 Rutgers. That played in the New Year's Day Gator Bowl. That just strikes me as odd. But I love it that we salvaged this bowl game, that they found somebody to play the game. And Rutgers said, hey, and kudos to Rutgers and Greg Schiano for having the best academic scores, the best GPA is the way this is determined for a 5-7 team to be the next team in line to be eligible. And kudos to whomever came up with that stipulation. I think that's the best way to determine that. Well done. So Rutgers will play in the Gator Bowl against Wake Forest. So basically, you give Rutgers a free pass in regards to if they lose, shoot, they're supposed to lose to a top 10, top 15 team in the country. But if they win, if Rutgers wins, they got to pull themselves off the mat. So I wonder when the last time they were together as a team until today or yesterday, whenever it was announced today, whenever they found out. So they're going to get in 5 or 6 practices and play a football game. I think it's phenomenal. Miami delayed its arrival to the Sun Bowl to just try to guard itself against COVID issues. Missouri starting quarterback Connor Basilick, who did not play in the bowl game against Army last night. The Knights defeated Missouri. Really close ball game. Interesting football game there. Army kicks a game-winning field goal at the gun to beat Mizzou 24-22, and Connor Basilick, starting quarterback. This would be another one of these situations I don't necessarily get. Connor Basilick's the starting quarterback at Missouri. He got injured. He didn't lose his job. He didn't get beat out, and he's transferring. We talked about the stipulations for the COVID guidelines for the college football playoff and what that could mean. And we know what Georgia's issues are right now with JT Daniels and others. Next on the line here, the voice of college football.
Hunter from Alabama.
Hi, Hunter.
Hey, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. I have kind of two things for you. One, as we see, first of all, let me start off by saying this. I think that Michigan is going to beat Georgia. Let's just put that out there. Number two, what do you think has changed behind the scenes as far as Jim Harbaugh and his program this year, going from what we've seen last year to going into this year? Now, I know he found a defensive coordinator and hired a new one. Still retained Josh Gaddis after last season. So that probably helped. So what do you see that he's done to do what nobody else thought would be possible?
Well, everything that you're asking makes total sense, but I'm going to make a statement that a lot of people may disagree with. I don't think Michigan is as different a football team as most people think they are. So Michigan, this COVID season in 2020, I think this is what it showed us. If you look across the country at the number of games that were played, the SEC played a full schedule. The ACC did as well. And the Big 12 to a certain extent, the Pac-12 and the Big 10 did not. I think we came to a conclusion where the best teams were truly the best teams, that those teams were able to navigate it, starting with Alabama more than anybody else, Ohio State, Clemson, etc. Okay. But after that, it became this wild card of, you saw Wisconsin underachieved, Penn State, Michigan underachieved. There were just a number of teams across the country that we couldn't get a really good read on them. Michigan played a half a schedule. So the point I'm making is Michigan's basically been a 9-3, 10-2 team under Jim Harbaugh. And so if we throw away the COVID season, which the games count, it's on the record, 2-4, but they played a half a season and there was no decline in their talent level. His recruiting's been really consistent since he got there. It's not been elite, but it's been close. It's been top 8 to 12. And he has fielded 9-3 and 10-2 teams. So this one is certainly the best. And maybe it caught Ohio State as not as good of an Ohio State team. But really, the results through the season were pretty similar to what Michigan's given us in the past. I do think that they're better. And the questions that you're asking are the questions that we asked ourselves and talked about the entire offseason as these changes were unfolding, that they hired younger staff. They overhauled the staff, probably 2/3 to 3/4 of the staff, and most of the replacements were considerably younger. And they actually, which is a bit strange, they positioned most of them in unfamiliar places. They put position coaches where they had not coached before. And a number of these guys, and we, I'm thinking back on the comments and the conversations that I had in particular with Steve Dace on Michigan Podcast, because he brings me on there every week and we talk about Michigan football. And so he keeps me on my toes.
I just got done listening to that, by the way.
So he keeps me on my toes thinking about Michigan football, because he's obviously all over it and a smart guy, and he wants my perspective on it. And as we went through this spring and summer, it was almost laughable at the time, because the defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald, got there just a couple days before spring practice. Their quarterbacks coach got there just a day or two before practice. And a number of their coaches, again, were put into coaching positions. Like, for example, I think it's their defensive backs coach is a wide receiver coach, had never coached defensive backs in his life. And boom, that's where they put him. I think that proves a lot. I think you hire great people and they can usually figure it out. And they talked the whole summer about how it was different. And I remember commenting, and I'll let you go after this, Hunter, and express your next point. But I do remember making the point that when Jim Harbaugh spoke at their first news conferences in the summer and at Big Ten Media Days, that there was no way for any of us to know if they were going to be better and if this really meant something. But at least he gave good examples to me. And I remember stating this a number of times. To me, he convinced me that it meant something. Like this Mike McDonald coming in from Baltimore. Harbaugh was asked, why is this guy such a good defensive coordinator? Why did you choose him? And he said, well, the one thing he can do is he can analyze players and determine quickly what they can do well and what they can't do. And so he has the right guys on the field at the right times, and he's the right combinations of guys on the field. He also can determine, and he just was very detailed in his analysis of why this coaching staff was better. And I thought, man, Harbaugh's just not giving typical coach speak. He's explaining situations. Remember him saying, we get in a room and we argue and debate in a healthy way. More so than any other staff that I've had. And we come to better ideas and we throw out great ideas, and the staff just really gels in terms of working together and coming to the best decisions. And he had a lot of examples like that impressed me. I still thought, well, we'll see if it actually plays out on the field, but at least they're good answers.
Yeah. I see where those kind of answers, and I think that he probably, from behind the scenes perspective, probably changed the culture of how he wanted to do things this season. I think he knew that his back was against the wall, and he had to have a successful season in order to stay as the head coach. And two, people are going to think that this is kind of unorthodox. But putting somebody in a position that they not really have coached before, but that they may have been around, it probably motivates them a lot and want them to prove themselves at that new position that they're coaching. And so when you give somebody a new task, I think that some of these coaches really want to do a good job because they've been entrusted with this new, coaching position. So, that's kind of my thought process.
Absolutely. I think you're onto something. And I couldn't sleep the other night, and I was listening to old news conferences from coaches, and I was listening to Dabo Sweeney a few years ago, and he was talking about when he was first forming his staff, and he was talking about some of the coaches that he has, and they had a particular running back coach that never coached running backs, and they just threw him over there and told him to coach running backs, and he gave a lot of examples like that too. It's not something that you just haphazardly do, but I think, yeah, there's, and I made the comment, and it sounds similar to something you just said. Remember making this comment again to Steve Dace, that I think there's something to having your back pushed against the wall, your job's on the line, and just saying, you know what, the heck with it. We're going to throw caution to the wind. We're going to come out guns blazing, and we're just going to have fun and coach the heck out of this season and see where it rolls. And hey, if I'm 7-5 and I get fired at the end of the year, well, then I gave it my best shot. But we're not going to just do what we've done before, play it conservative, and just kind of like try to do our best. We're going to take some risks.
Well, yeah, and we know that this is the crazy part to me that's been about his whole tenure here at Michigan has been. It's because I know that the guy can recruit. I mean, that's the thing to say. I know he has the talent to do it. He just couldn't seem to put the pieces together. And this year, he's put the pieces together. Part of the reason why I think that they can beat Georgia is because of, one, their running back. Georgia, and from my perspective, Georgia it has a great defense. I'm not going to take anything away from that, from what they've done. But they have played in a division of college football, in my opinion, is probably one of the worst divisions in college football, which is the SEC East.
I don't know about that.
They've not had to play. Well, they play. Who they really play? Think about it. They play Florida. That's their best team in that division. You got to have Kentucky.
Florida's the best team in the division.
Well, in the SEC East,
Florida's the best team in the SEC East, other than Georgia.
I mean, this year you have to chalk. I mean, I would say that Kentucky's probably had a better season than Florida.
Kentucky went 9-3, and they beat Florida. Why are they not better than Florida? So I would say Kentucky's better than Florida. I'd say that Tennessee's probably better than Florida. I know they lost the game head-to-head, but then they got much better, and they finished with a better record. South Carolina finished with the same record, and they beat them by 3 scores. They might be better.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, but I mean,
and Florida did take your Alabama team to the wire. Teams change throughout the season. The Florida team that Georgia played was a lot better than the team that played at the end of the season. So anyway, I don't want to get into grind it down to details, but I believe that if I was going to rank the divisions in college football, the SEC East would be nowhere near the bottom for me.
Well, maybe I just don't watch enough of the other conferences to really. I mean, I pay attention to the ACC more than I do any other. I mean, first the SEC and then ACC, just because I'm a big Florida State fan as well. Big fan of Florida State, and Alabama's my primary team. But so maybe I just don't pay enough attention to the rest of the college football world, I guess. I mean, I pay attention to the big names, the big brands, but you're covering this stuff all the time, so you would know better than me. But what I'm saying is, I think that one of the reasons why Michigan can beat Georgia is I think that they can do enough up front with a better quarterback, in my opinion. And you said this on the Steve Dace podcast that that you thought that that Michigan has the better quarterback, and so I see a scenario where even though that Michigan's going to come into this game as an underdog, that they can beat this team. And part of me just wants Michigan to win because I would like it to be a historic brand of a national championship game with Michigan and Alabama, just for the nostalgic effect. The romance of it, of just being these two historic juggernauts, going against each other.
So
that's part
yep.
of that's part of it too.
So Hunter, just to clarify what I said about the quarterback position, and you're right, I did say that McNamara is better than Stetson Bennett, but not in the way that most people would think one quarterback's better than the other, that he can throw it with more velocity or throw it more accurate, or he's a better runner or anything like that. It's more about decision making, that they're going to each throw, unless the game gets crazy out of hand and they got to throw the ball 50 times to catch up. They want to throw the ball 25 or 30 times. Based on track record, based on what we've seen in the past, there'll be similar quarterbacks for 28 out of those 30 throws. They're really similar. I wouldn't know how to rate McNamara versus Stetson Bennett. They're both good quarterbacks, good college quarterbacks. Nothing great, but Stetson Bennett makes the 2 or 3 mistakes that Cade McNamara doesn't make, and that's been pretty consistent.
Yeah,
so that's huge.
I was just saying that I would give McNamara the edge. I mean,
sure.
If I had to pick one,
yep,
I'd say that he's the better quarterback. But part of it, like I said, is just me hoping that we can get this sort of a historic matchup for the national championship game. So, and anytime that, and I really don't want to see, honestly, I really don't want to see Alabama versus Georgia as a national championship game. I mean, if it comes down to it, that's the best two teams that are playing against for each other in the championship. So be it. But, we've had 3 big games the last few years of Alabama versus Georgia. Last year Alabama played them as one of the first games in the season, and then this year we played them in the championship game, in the SEC championship. Then if we have to play them again in the national championship game, that's 3 big games, right there. And I would like to see, some of these other conferences, be able to get in there, like the Michigan, to get in there. I just don't know. And one more thing before I go, I just want to get your quick comment on. I have a friend of mine who is a big Nebraska fan. And do you think that part of the reason why they haven't been able to be as successful as they were back in the day is because Nebraska is probably a very hard place to recruit to? I mean, the part of the country that it's in, it just seems to me that would be a very hard place to get to recruit kids to. Do you see what I'm saying there?
Yep, I say it all the time. So exactly what you're saying, I've stated probably 100 times. I think it's the toughest job in the country. If you match what the expectations are versus how many football players you have in the surrounding 500 miles that are good enough to play to win at that level in the Big Ten, you've got the most you've got the most, the biggest lift of recruiting than you have anywhere. You've got to go to Texas. You got to go to California. You got to go. I don't think you're going to go. Well, that's where they go for the most part. They're not going to Ohio or Pennsylvania. There's not as many players there, and the ones that are there aren't going out to Nebraska to play. So that's where they typically go for these players. They've got about 4 or 5 players in their state every year that can play for them. And that's it. And even those kids don't necessarily choose Nebraska. And then they've got, one or two in Minnesota and one or two in the Dakotas, and just that's not enough. That's only 12 or 15 players, and those aren't the best players. Those are just good, decent players to have on your roster that are legitimate Big Ten players. And so where do the other 60 or 70 guys come from? Well, they got to go to Texas. They got to go to California. They got to go, pluck out the best players in Utah and Colorado. And that's, again, only going to be a few. And anytime a Nebraska team is in the running for its player in Florida, let's say, if you look at the Florida list of players, they're all going to one of the Florida schools, or they're going to Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Nebraska is getting the 105th best player in Florida. They're not getting the 5th best player in Florida. And those are the guys that they're getting. And that's why they're not winning in the Big Ten. You're right. Absolutely. But they've got all this money. They've got a great facility. It's unbelievable. They're 3-9 and the place is packed. They have a great football situation there. They just don't have enough football players around.
Yeah, and it's absurd the amount of talent that comes out of Florida. I mean, it really, really is.
Mm-hmm.
And we just got to face it now that college football recruiting is nationwide. I mean, you see guys get out. I know Alabama, the best, but you see Nick Saban going, and then again, it is Nick Saban. But you see him going into places like Pennsylvania. We got Sean Murphy, one of the top linebacker recruits in the country this year. You see him going to the DMV area almost every other year. He can go out to California and Ohio. I mean, you've got to be able to pull kids to that, to that place. And I think you're right. I think it is the hardest job in college football.
This it's just like I think that maybe Auburn's the toughest job in the SEC. They get they got a ton of talent. They got really good talent if they were playing somewhere else, but they're playing in the SEC West. They're playing in the same state as Alabama, so the expectations are extremely high. So I just pulled up. These are the top high school football players in the state of Florida in this recruiting class and where they're going. Texas A&M, Georgia, Alabama, Georgia, Florida State, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Michigan, Alabama, Miami, Ohio State, Georgia, Florida State, Miami, Penn State, West Virginia, Alabama, Miami, UCF, Iowa State, Florida State, Miami, UCF, Oklahoma. Okay, where's Nebraska? I see Michigan State and Indiana popping up before Nebraska, and Pitt and Northwestern and Minnesota and Georgia Tech. Nebraska is not even in the top. Okay, here we go. They got the 75th best player out of the state of Florida, wide receiver Victor Jones. He's a 3-star. Yeah,
I mean you're exactly you just said it all there. It's just so difficult, and I want that program to be good. I would love it nothing more to see Nebraska to do well. I just think it's just I can't imagine what from what Scott Frost had to deal with, and figuring out the frustration and being able to recruit there on a national scale.
These are some of the schools that got higher ranked players out of Florida than Nebraska. Illinois, Utah, Rutgers, Vanderbilt, NC State, Georgia Tech, Minnesota, Northwestern, Indiana, Iowa State.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And you would think it wouldn't be that way, just based on the history of Nebraska. You would think that they would be able to compete, I get to the football dynamics are just so different now than it was, let's say, in the 60s, than it is today. And I don't know exactly what the dynamics for that was allowed Nebraska to be so dominant during those years that they were.
That's before people moved. That's one thing. People are moving south and they're moving west, and they have been since the 80s.
So was there just a lot of talent in Nebraska back then? Or did they just pick kids up from the neighboring states? I mean,
I think there was more talent.
back then.
There was more talent in places like any of those decent football playing states: Nebraska, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania. There was more talent relative to the talent in the South 30 years ago because there was more population.
Mm-hmm.
So it's getting tougher and tougher to win in the North.
Okay, while I got you on here for just a second, just bear with me for just a second. I want to pull something up right quick while you're on here, just so that we can have this as a point of reference here. Okay, so I'm going to go to this.
While you're looking that up, I would say that I bet if we went back 5 to 10 years in the state of Florida, when Nebraska was going 8-4, 9-3, that they were doing better then in the state of Florida.
Okay, I just pulled this up, and this is astonishing to me. Okay, the number one player in Nebraska is going to Oregon. The second best player is going to, part of the rankings, is going to Missouri, then Oklahoma, then Auburn, and then the next three players are going to Nebraska, where they're all three-star recruits. And then you have number 10 best is going to Iowa.
So,
and
how many of those are 4 stars? Like 3 guys?
Yes, the top 3 are 4 stars, and they're all going to anywhere else but Nebraska.
Yep.
Why can't he retain talent there?
Well, at this point, they probably want to win. If you were bringing that up 10 years ago, I wouldn't be able to search for an answer. But now they probably look where they're going: Oregon, Oklahoma, Auburn. They don't want to go 3-9.
Yeah, and I feel bad for Scott Frost. I mean, because he was he was a really good quarterback for them back in the day, and he's trying to resurrect this program. And I mean, it would just be a nightmare if you were tasked with that.
Yeah.
That. I mean.
Yeah. So basically,
how many of the top coaches are?
I was going to say, basically what you're outlining is something I should have remembered, because I looked that up, I don't know, 6 weeks, 2 months ago. We got a Nebraska show on Tuesday nights and thought the same thing. I was looking at that, and because I told you 10 minutes ago, I said Nebraska, even if they get the top 5 players out of the state of Nebraska, it's only 5. They need to get a whole lot more. Well, they're not even in this particular recruiting cycle, not even getting the top 5. Those guys are going. They need those top 5. They need to get, you're not going to get everyone. They need to get 4 out of 5. Ohio State gets 8 out of the top 10 players in Ohio. And then after that, it doesn't really matter if they get anybody besides that. Not really. They're good with that. They get 8 out of the top 10. They don't need the 20th best player in Ohio. They're not interested in him. They're interested in the top 5 to 10 players in the state of Ohio. But Nebraska, my goodness, they only have 3 4-stars.
Last year, the number one player in Nebraska went to Oregon.
Yes, I remember that as well. Yeah.
So I mean, I understand. I mean, where they're at. I mean, they're just not a hotbed for talent. I mean, that's just the reality of it. It's just like you said. I agree with you even more now that we're looking at all this. Yeah, that is the hardest time with college football. It has to be. And I mean, I would suspect that even UCF, is able to retain more of the. But I don't know. It's just, yeah, wow. I mean, I just didn't realize how bad it was until you just went over this. There, we just kind of went over all that. But anyway, Mark, I always enjoy your show, and I will probably the next time I'll speak to you is after the playoff game.
Sounds good, Hunter. Merry
hopefully
Christmas.
there'll be
Thank you
some-
so much.
hopefully there'll-
Thanks for calling. I appreciate
Merry
it.
Christmas.
You have a good night.
Goodbye. Bye.
On the other hand, the state of Florida has 37 4-stars. 37 4-stars for the state of Florida, 30 4-stars for the state of California, 3 4-stars for the state of Nebraska. Next up here at the Voice of College Football, who's on the line?
Hey, how's it going, Mark? This is Emmanuel.
Hey, Emmanuel. How's it going?
It's going well. Yourself?
I'm good.
Excellent. Hey, I just had a quick question. This has been kind of a hot topic, at least on my Facebook, in regards to Burks with the Razorbacks opting out and not playing in the bowl game against Penn State.
Who did?
There's plenty of fans that are Burks, wide receiver.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, he's probably he's their best offensive threat. I mean,
Yes,
without
he is.
him, he's just such a big part of the offense. He opted out, and I guess there was, on my, like I was saying on my Facebook, it's kind of split 50-50 where people are like, no player should ever not play in a bowl. In the past, it was unheard of. And nowadays, it seems like yesterday we had Missouri's running back not play against Army. And that was a huge factor for them. So what are your thoughts about players opting out?
So I don't like it. I'm a college football fan, and I want to see the best players on the field. And I would like to think that those players, when they signed a scholarship, so they signed a contract. When they signed a scholarship, that's a contract, and they signed to be in school for a particular length. I don't know what the scholarship, how it reads. So I'm not saying to the degree that I'm some expert that knows what a scholarship and all the terminology, but I know that it's a contract, and I would think that they would finish out, and they dedicated and committed themselves to a football team and a football program, and the season's not over. So as long as they're healthy, they are receiving the benefit. The agreement was that they offer their football skills and talents and ability in exchange for a free education. And that's the deal. And they play the football season. They lift weights, they run, they watch film, they go to meetings, they play football games on Saturday until the season's over. And they're not doing that. They're quitting in the middle of the season. What if the school pulled the scholarship out of nowhere? But the schools don't do that. The schools honor the scholarship, but the players aren't honoring the scholarship. But what response can there be to that, though? They can't be penalized in any way, because basically they've come to a point where they are determining that they're going to prepare themselves for the NFL draft. They're either staying in school, if they're allowed to stay in school and they want to, which I'm guessing rarely happens. They're basically saying, I'm done preparing for the NFL draft. I'm going to be working out. I'm going to be with an agent, and we're going to prepare to perform at the Senior Bowl workouts and the NFL Combine and all of that. And that's what I'm doing. So what can the school do in response to that? They can't be penalized. They're done. They're out. Bye. So the only thing that I have thought of, and I don't know, it's bothering me because I don't remember whether this came to mind or somebody mentioned this, because I don't want to take credit for this, but I don't remember if a caller said this or I came up with this. Anyway, doesn't matter. That with all this NIL money out there, and these bowl games have been sponsored for decades, why don't some of the sponsorship money be given to the players to play in the bowl game? Give them incentive to play in the bowl game. If you win the bowl game, here's $10,000. If you lose the bowl game, we still get $5,000. We're going to pay you to play in the bowl game.
Right, and yeah, I think that's an excellent thing. But then again, it goes. Imagine if there were no bowls and just a playoff, right? Then it would mean something. But I think now, as I see, Arkansas's playing Penn State in the Outback Bowl, right?
Yes.
I mean, part of me is like, so what? I mean, it's a game that doesn't really matter.
Why?
Because,
why doesn't it matter? So, Emmanuel, I'm playing devil's advocate. So I generally agree with everything you're saying, but I'm going to play devil's advocate to prove a point. If I'm Treylon Burks, what did that LSU game? Oh, wait a minute. Arkansas, they finish up against Missouri. It used to be LSU. Now it's Missouri. What did that matter? Why did that game matter?
Well, it doesn't necessarily matter anymore because you're not going into a playoff, right? That's why maybe it's just best to have a 16-team playoff, right?
Well, that's
12 or 16.
Well, that's my point about Treylon Burks' decision in particular, and I'm not picking on him because he's making the same decision other people are. But if he's opting out for the Penn State game, Arkansas played Missouri. That game, what did that mean? That neither team had a shot at any championship. Why is this Penn State game any less than the Missouri game? If anything, there are going to be 10 times more people watching the Penn State game on TV than watch that Missouri game. So why didn't I'm waiting for the day that these players start to decide to sit out regular season games, because over the last 2 or 3 weeks of a college football season, probably 80% of the games don't mean anything toward a conference championship. Those teams are eliminated. They can't win a conference championship. So why wouldn't the players say, you know what? We're out of it. We're 7-3. I'm not playing the last 2 games of the season.
Well, Clowney did that, didn't he? Kind of with South Carolina a couple years back.
That sounds familiar.
He just shut down the season. Yeah, he shut down the season after like the second game.
The second game? Did he really? Yeah. Man, why don't I remember that?
I think so.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I think it was like I think he completely sat out the year, and someone put that he was injured. Sat his junior year with injury. Yeah, he completely sat the whole junior year. He did not play. I don't believe he played it down, or he made it played one game. I remember Steve Spurrier was on a press conference talking about how, hey, he's shutting it down. It was a privilege to have him come to South Carolina. So,
yeah.
But going back to that, Burks in this particular case, I've heard that he had been playing with cracked ribs all season long, and he took a huge shot at Alabama where he was down for a long time, where the trainers were with him. And then in the Missouri game, he took a harder shot. He was down for a really long time. So when he opted out, I almost wasn't surprised because he took 2 huge shots. And like going back to that, I mean, if he plays, hopefully he doesn't get hurt, but if he takes another big shot like he did in Alabama, Missouri, and being already hurt, there's no incentive for him. Hey, we won the Outback Bowl. We get a blue onion, But
again, what's the incentive of him playing against Missouri?
There wasn't. That's why there should probably only be a playoff.
Okay.
For 16 games.
I guess. Well, anyway, I want to be accurate. We're always, our aim on here above anything else is to be accurate. So we want to be accurate because as soon as you mentioned this Clowney situation, it vaguely came to mind what you were saying. I thought, oh yeah, I remember that, but I don't remember exactly what happened. So let's be fair. Jadeveon Clowney did play 11 games that season. So what happened was played the season opener against North Carolina. He was weakened, according to Wikipedia, by gastroenteritis. Clowney appeared tired, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I remember him giving a poor effort in that game. Anyway, he sat out against Kentucky. He said he had a muscle strain, sat out that game, came back against Tennessee, etc. Sat out another game against Coastal Carolina. So Coastal Carolina was awful then. South Carolina, I'm sure, trounced them. So he sat out this game in which he said he had a muscle strain, and then he sat out their basically scrimmage game before Clemson. But he played the rest of the games, and he played the bowl game. Played 11 games.
Oh, he did?
He played 11 games.
Oh, wow. I thought he had shut it down. I remember when Spurrier had talked about it. Oh.
Yeah, he played the bowl game against Wisconsin, last game of his career. He had 5 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. And then he announced he was going to the NFL draft.
Yeah, and one other thing kind of not as related with opting out was, remember Nick Bosa, where he had been injured against TCU, had an operation, and opted out from playing in the playoff. Was that? Yeah.
They didn't play in the playoff. They played in the Rose Bowl.
The Rose Bowl, yeah. That one made sense as well. So,
why did those make sense and other ones didn't make sense?
Well, I mean, for Bosa, because he was coming off of a major surgery.
Okay, I got you. As opposed to just somebody saying, I don't want to play because I don't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
Who's not hurt.
Opting out and
yes,
saying, hey.
yes. Okay.
Yeah. But, hey, that was a great take on that. And last thing, Mark, you know what? These Michigan fans on here, no disrespect, but Michigan has no chance against Georgia. They're going to go into that game. None. I'm telling you, Mark, next time we talk, you can bring it up next time we talk. Michigan, and you're going to see the running back, they're going to go, holy smokes, these guys are fast. The quarterback's going to be saying the same thing. The running back, he goes, we're playing an NFL team. They're going to realize that SEC football, and particularly this Georgia team, who I'm telling you right now is going to play with their hair on fire after getting embarrassed. And I'm not a Georgia fan.
I got 2 questions for you.
Tell you,
Emmanuel, I got 2 questions for you. Number 1, who's your team?
Razorbacks and USC.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. I'm sorry. I now remember, it's coming back to me. Okay. Question number 2. What are those Michigan players going to do when they actually go to the NFL? Georgia doesn't have that many more NFL players than Michigan has. I'm about sure that they have more, but it's not substantially more.
Do you think Michigan's offense has seen anyone close to Georgia's defense?
They've seen that caliber of athlete. They played Ohio State. Now, whether Ohio State's playing well, that's a whole other. It's not all about talent. Wisconsin's got a better defense than Ohio State. Are they as talented? No. Wisconsin fields top 5 defense. Like, I legitimately believe that almost every season Wisconsin has one of the 5 or 10 best defenses in the country. Do they have one of the 5 or 10 best, most talented defenses in the country? No. So, there's more to it than just running fast. If you're not taking the right angle to the ball and you didn't, you take 2 linebackers, and let's say one is super talented, fast, and you take another one who's really good, but he's the 50th fastest linebacker in the country. He's not the fastest, but he reads that play quicker and can shed a block better. He's a better linebacker. And that's what we see at places like Wisconsin. We see better defenses because they must be able to teach those guys how to play better. Yeah, Michigan's seen athletes as good as Georgia's. They play on Ohio State's roster. Did they play well? No.
Yeah.
Alabama put
Yeah,
up 41 points against them. So the point I'm making is, yeah, there are more SEC players that are going to go play in the NFL. We know that statistically, but the Big Ten's number 2 on that list and always is. So it's not like these Big Ten players go to the NFL and get surprised. They play against each other. So I get your point that they are playing waves and waves of 4 and 5 stars, but I guarantee if you pull out that Georgia 2 deep starting defense and match it up in terms of recruiting rankings against Ohio State's, you're not going to see much difference.
Yeah,
or against Penn
yeah.
State's, you're going to see a difference there. But shoot, Penn State's defense is pretty serious. And they played Wisconsin's defense. I don't know. I don't know if you can guarantee a win. Well, you can do whatever you want. There's all sorts of people throughout history that have guaranteed wins and come through, and other ones who haven't.
Yeah, but we'll see. It's going to be exciting, but I just, like Davis on that D line, I think just Michigan's going to get overwhelmed. I really do. We'll see. I hope it's going to be a great game. And lastly, going back to the opting out and with the bowls and them not meaning things. For instance, the Arkansas Penn State game, you're going to be facing a different Penn State than the Penn State that's played all season because the defensive coordinator isn't there. That's going to be a huge factor.
Sure,
it's a different team. You're playing a different defense. Tonight, UCF beating Florida, which did not have its head coach. You had Missouri yesterday with a freshman who had only one game, having started before start the game. So, yeah, the bowl games, unfortunately, mean. In the past, you were able to gauge conferences by how they did in bowl games. You can't do that anymore.
Well, I think you can in certain instances, and in others you have to. Missouri went out there without its best running back, and certainly did they lose because they didn't have their best running back? Nobody knows. We'll never know. If Beatty would have played last night and you would have told me Missouri is going to win the game, I would have said, I totally get it. They got their best running back. That was the difference. They only lost by a last-second field goal. But if you would have told me he played, gained 117 yards, but it didn't matter, they still lost, that wouldn't have surprised me either. I think there's a balance that you take on the perspective of these opt-outs in that, do they matter? Of course they matter. Those are guys that are going to be playing in the game, and those are typically the best players because they've got the opportunity to opt out to go play in the NFL. But on the other hand, we have all sorts of examples every year of bowl seasons where guys step in as second-string quarterbacks, running backs, pick the position, and they show that they're just the next guy in line, and they might even eventually be better than the guy that they were backing up, number one. Number two, if Missouri's a good football program, they should be able to beat Army without their starting running back.
Yeah, but I think the ones that will make the biggest factor, of course, are like the coaching changes. What is it? LSU. They're obviously, I guess their coordinator is going to be calling that game. Who else?
I would
like
love
in the Arkansas game.
I would love somebody to track this. Somebody needs to go through all the bowl games every season, and if they can give me some kind of definitive statistic that says teams whose head coach left had this record, and this record is horrible. They went 14-41 in 55 bowl games, then I could say, okay, that seems pretty indicative that really impacted those teams. Although most coaches who get fired, they get fired because their teams underachieve. So maybe those teams weren't. So anyway, regardless, it's just one of those things that, again, we conjecture about, but really nobody did the research to really. It's like trap games. This is a trap game. That's a trap game. Okay, I understand the concept of a trap game, but nobody has ever brought me evidence to say that actually exists. I know what the definition is, but nobody's ever brought or researched it enough to determine, hey, yes, this is a real thing, or a letdown game, or there's a zillion things. I hear all the time in the NFL, it's a division game. It's a tougher game. Okay. You need to statistically prove that to me, that it's tougher because it's a division game. Like, nobody's ever done that. And so it makes sense that if a team lost its head coach, that it's more difficult. They have to go through that adversity, that adjustment, but it's not been proven that those teams, there's plenty of teams that lose their head coach and still win the bowl game. But I don't know what those numbers are.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting. Yeah, it was, the other day, what was it, Fresno State? They pulled off the win up against UTEP.
But then again,
and they looked great.
Yeah, and really to do the research, you'd have to go beyond that, because Fresno State should beat UTEP. They're a much better team. So there you go. All right, sir.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the phone call.
Well, Mark, hey, thanks earlier. Thanks, Mark. Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye. Emmanuel guaranteeing the Michigan win. I did want to talk some Rutgers. Maybe I'll shoot a video, but I don't really have a slant on this. Maybe I'll do a little preview. Rutgers and Wake Forest in the Gator Bowl. I love this, that Rutgers, they played Maryland the last Saturday of November. So then I'm sure they hung up the cleats, the shoulder pads, the whole deal, cleaned out the lockers. They're done until winter workouts in January, probably January 15th, 20th, something in that range. But boom, here we are, December 23rd. We're playing football. We're playing in a week. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's J-Dub calling in from Des Moines. Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas to you, J-Dub. What's on your mind?
Well, I was going to tee you up on Rutgers. You just exactly took what I was going to say. How do you think the Scarlet Knights feel? I mean, they went home. They went, semester's over, season's over.
Yeah,
locker rooms got cobwebs in it. They're home. They're, eating cheesecake, getting ready for Christmas, and then all of a sudden,
yeah,
they get an email or a phone call saying, "Get your butt back on campus."
I hope they asked the players. I think they should have asked the players.
Yeah, because I have some not tight, but I have a few connections with the University of Illinois, and Illinois was one of the teams that was considered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and they're all scattered to the wind.
Sure.
You'd have to get 80 kids back into Champaign. Well, kids, you know what I mean. You'd have to get 80 players back into Champaign in like 2 days and start all over again. And they've not been probably not been working out. Certainly not like they would on the regular schedule of during the season. And then turn around and play. And look, we're not going to go play Sister Mary Tech. We're going to go play a good quality team that we don't know anything about because we've never played them. I'm sure that Rutgers is happy for the opportunity, and I'm sure the players are like, "Hey, we're going to a bowl," but wow, what a spot to be put in.
It is a strange. Again, I think I would have mixed feelings myself to be like, "Okay, this is a great opportunity. This will be fun in a way, but we got to get back to work. I got to lift. I got to work out. I got to get ready to go and ready to play a good team and line up against somebody who wants to knock me on my rear end." that's been focused for the last 3 weeks to knock somebody on their rear end. Well, like you said, I've been stuffing my mouth with cheesecake and looking forward to just kicking back.
I mean, you know,
it'll be fascinating.
Yeah, these players have been, like you mentioned, you know, Rutgers' last game was against Maryland. They've more or less been shut down since November, you know. And now turn around and it's not like they're going to play them on January 12th where they've, you know, got another week, you know, another 10 days or something to get ready. It's like, do it now, you know. And oh, by the way, Christmas is right in the middle of this time where you've got to hurry up and get ready. And then it's the Gator Bowl, right? Isn't that the bowl?
Yes.
Okay, so then they toss in that you know, 2 of these days you're going to be taking up traveling and getting ready for the game.
Yeah.
You know, just physically moving the team and their equipment down to Jacksonville. You know, so even less time. You know, I don't envy the people dealing with the logistics. It's like you were saying to a caller earlier in the show. You can't just snap your fingers and make a game happen. It doesn't work like that. There's a whole lot of moving pieces that have to fall into place.
I also find it interesting just with the matchup and what we are going to perceive as college football fans about the matchup, because it puts Wake Forest in a sense in a no-win situation. So as I understand it, Texas A&M bailed. Maybe the Gator Bowl was considering shutting down. Wake Forest really wanted to play this game. I read a few different things on social media that there was a push from Wake Forest to say, hey, we've had this great season. We're not playing in the Gator Bowl every year. It's a big deal for us. We want to play a game. Get us an opponent.
Right.
Well, the opponent they get them is 5-7. So if Wake Forest wins this game, great.
Right.
They won the Gator Bowl, and it's not their fault who they play. But let's say they win this game and they win it close. They win 30-27 against Rutgers, 5-8 Rutgers, and they win the Gator Bowl. Okay, well, they won the Gator Bowl and they finished 11-3. But if they lose this game to Rutgers, that's going to look pretty bad.
Yeah, and even if they have a result like the Army game, you know, where they're unexpectedly tested.
Yeah,
you know, it's all in a way. You know, if you're a Demon Deacon fan, you know, this has been a great year for you. You know, a historically great year. And now a little sniffle comes along, and a couple guys get the flu, and there goes the cherry on your season. You know, let me ask you, and I'm going to take a really hard line on this COVID BS. Are we aware of any FBS player who tested positive for COVID and was then hospitalized? Do we know of a single one?
You're hitting on a point that I talk with different people about constantly, because there's a difference between, okay, you extracted this virus versus how is this impacting you? I don't want to make light of COVID, but if somebody told me I stubbed my toe and then they also told me I had COVID and I'm going to have it for the rest of my life, but I'm never going to feel anything, shoot, I'd rather have COVID than stub my toe because I don't even know I had it. And it seems like most of these players, it seems like the feedback is, when I hear it, you hear more from the NFL players because they can have more freedom to talk and have a platform and stuff. It's like they just, okay, I didn't feel great. Both of my kids had COVID and it didn't really impact them. And they're in that age range. I'm sure that if there would have been some kind of, and again, I do not in any way want to minimize this situation because it is impacted.
Neither do I.
It is horribly impacted people that I know, or by connection through a friend or family member know secondhand. But we're talking about, again, physically fit 18 to 21 year olds. And I'm sure that if there would have been a situation where one of them had some horrendous situation, there would have been some kind of story on ESPN, some kind of tearjerker story documentary that we would have all seen about that person's plight through their COVID experience. And I'm not seeing that.
Now, we're talking about the age group that statistically it's like point, and then you got to go through 3 zeros. So it's not 0.1, it's 0.000. It's like 1/10,000th
Yes.
of a percent. Okay. And then it's probably actually less than that, because we're talking about superior athletes.
Yes.
And they're getting a football player at Ohio State or Alabama or at Colorado State, I don't care.
Yep. Sure.
Is getting medical attention above and beyond by a huge margin than the average student on that campus. And what as an Alabama fan, if you told me Evan Neal got mono, he can't play against Cincinnati. Jordan Battle got the mumps, he can't play. Will Anderson has come down with the flu. I'm like, well, you know what? They're sick. Okay, so they're sick. Let's say Will Anderson, Evan Neal, and Brian Robinson for Alabama all get the flu. Okay. Well, they've got the flu. They're sick. They're physically unable to compete. It really sucks for the Tide, but we're not going to make the entire team sit home because 3 guys got sick.
Well, you're making the distinction.
Here we're talking about,
you're making the distinction that
know,
makes total sense. There's a difference between having COVID and being sick. Those aren't necessarily the same thing all the time.
Right. That's what I mean. I mean, we're talking about, you're talking about like 8 guys walking around. They don't even know they have it, you know? And like, how you feeling today? Great. Well, guess what? This test says you've got it. You've got this infectious disease, so you can't play. What do you mean? I've been practicing all week. It hasn't affected me at all. Well, sorry, too bad. You know? And one other point, I'd like to get your take on this, about the players sitting out. And I hate to use them as an example, but they're the perfect example of this. 2019, coming off a loss in the national championship game, and they drop into the Citrus Bowl. They're not even playing in the New Year. It's not even New Year's 6. They're playing Michigan in the Citrus Bowl. 4 first-round draft picks are on Alabama's offense in that game who play.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't opt out. They played and they returned for a season because they wanted a national championship, and they come back in 2020 and they got it. Okay? So they didn't opt out. They said, well, we could. I understand why people are opting out, but that's not us. That's not our mentality. That's what we don't do here. We don't do that here. Okay? To me, if you opt out, you're turning your back on your team and on your school. And I'd like your thoughts on this. Joe Smith, tight end Joe Smith for Hometown State. He opts out. Okay, Joe, you got 72 hours, get off campus. You're done. You voided your contract with us.
Absolutely.
And so now we don't owe you anything. You got to get off campus. You don't get any meals. You don't get any training. You don't get any access to any of the facilities. You're not even a student anymore. You're done. You're just a person that lives here in hometown USA. You have no connection to the university. So long. What's wrong with the schools treating the players like that way?
Well, there's nothing wrong with them being treated that way. The problem is that the universities don't want to build a reputation that that's the way they treat players, so they're going to have difficulty recruiting more players. So they're going to get a bad reputation that they're not. But that's the way they should be treated. People need to be held accountable. Like I said before to another caller, there was a contract signed. It's a scholarship. It's a contract. And you get free room and board and education in exchange for playing football for us. And, you stopped playing foot. So you go to practice, you lift weights, you go to meetings, you play in the games. Well, we still have games to play. Oh, you're deciding not to play in the game and you're not injured? Okay. Or you don't have some kind of family issue. It's your decision not to play. Well, it's our decision because you broke the contract. You're not allowed. Exactly. I would do the same thing. You had 72 hours to get off campus. You're no longer. You've broken the contract.
Mark, I'm a freelance photographer for a living, and I'm paid by a couple sites that buy my photographs, and I shoot at Iowa and Iowa State home football games. And it was a Saturday night game, 6:00 kickoff, rainy and cold and miserable when Iowa State absolutely blew out Kansas this year. Now, if I opt out and say, you know what, I don't want to stand there. And I don't want to put my rain gear on. I don't want to have to cover up all my equipment. I don't want to go through the logistical hell of shooting this game because it's not going to be a fun experience. I'm just going to opt out. And you know what they're going to tell me? Well, then we're going to opt out not to have you here next week when Oklahoma State comes, and you can just go try to find a paycheck somewhere else. There are repercussions for your actions, and I'd just like to see once or twice some university drop the bomb on a player that does that, and let that message get out. If you turn your back on us, we no longer have a relationship. You're just Joe Smith who lives here in town.
I'd forgotten about that Alabama situation, though, with the players that opted out of that Citrus Bowl against Michigan coming back the next season, because that is a very unusual circumstance. The rest of these guys are headed off to the NFL draft.
Devontae Smith, Najee Harris, Alex Leatherwood, Jalen Waddle.
Okay.
All came back, and all could have left.
Yep.
All were eligible to leave, to declare for the draft and say, I'm leaving as a junior, and they all came back for another year.
Yes. Okay. It's coming back to me now, but here's the deal. Talent speaks volumes, and when you're talented, you can get away with things like that. So Nick Saban had the decision. He could kick the guys off the team and say, we had a football game to play. You didn't play. Bye. But he's not going to do that because they're 4 great football players. So he's going to keep them on the team. So as they say, the inmates are running the asylum.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm not going to put any decision I ever make or any comment I ever make about football cross swords with Nick Saban. I know better than that. And Saban has been prescient about all this stuff. You can not like him all you want. You can be a Bama hater all you want, and the world's full of them. But I mean, Saban warned us what was going to happen with the transfer portal, and look what Bama did. They just got Jahmyr Gibbs, and they picked up Eli Wicks, and they're probably not done. And they picked up last year was Jamison Williams and Henry To'oTo'o. And Saban said, "Hey, I don't want this. I don't like what you were doing here with this transfer portal. I'm not in favor of it. But if this is what you want, okay. I warned you. I'm warning you what's going to happen. And look what's happening. The rich are getting richer. He warned. Should have been listening. Well, hey, look, I've already absorbed way too much time. I'll get off the line and let somebody else come in here. But a Merry Christmas to you, Mark. Appreciate all you do. And shout out to the comment section. Let's hope everybody, however you celebrate, whatever your beliefs or not beliefs are, I hope you have a great holiday and everybody stay safe.
Absolutely. Thanks, J-Dub. Same to you. All right. Man, I am getting behind on all right, let's address the live chat first and foremost. So I got through all that political garbage that every so often somebody will ask me about being a moderator, and I will, as long as I identify that they watch the live streams, which they always do. I've given moderator status to like 10 people, but they don't show up to moderate. So if you would like to be a moderator, we can make you a moderator so we can kick out people that talk about politics, because regardless of who I voted for or what I believe, I don't want to see any of it. So I see comments made from both sides. There's probably a bunch of sides, but we know the two main sides. And I don't want to see any of that because it's just not appropriate here. It doesn't benefit anyone. It just annoys people, and it's not why we're here. So we need to get those people out of here. And by the time I get down to their comments and questions, then just like the other night, we had, when was the last time we were live? It must have been on, losing track of my days, whenever it was, maybe on Tuesday. We had a live show and call-in show. And I caught up with all sorts of morons that were posting. I think it was on the Ohio State show. And there was one guy in particular, one person in particular, I should say. Let's not blame this on all the males. Who knows? One person in particular that must have had like 6 or 7 Gmail accounts because they were posting garbage. I blocked them, and then they came right back, and I blocked them again, and they just kept coming back and coming back and coming back. So we have to deal with morons at times. So my apologies there. Next up here on the Voice of College Football, who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Michael. How you doing, sir?
Hey, Michael. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing a lot better than I was on Monday night, by the way.
You're doing better
When I
tonight
was,
than you
like,
were on
chopped
Monday.
up.
Yes, you were not feeling
when I-
well, so it's good to hear you in fine voice.
Yeah. Hey, got a question for you. You guys just talked about, and Jeff made some great points, but let me ask you this. What would you say if a player who's opted out graduated in 3 years? Would you say they would still not be allowed to use the facilities?
Okay, so if the particular player graduated from college and they opted out and they went to the NFL draft,
Yes.
I think that's a different situation. So I understand your point. Again, I'm not the one in charge. If I was the person in charge, a lot of the statements that I've made concerning something like that, of course, if I was the person in charge, I'd have to think about 58 different things to make sure that our guideline and the rules that we set up were rock solid. And I was thinking of it from all angles instead of just spewing out answers off the top of my head. So sure. That sounds like a reasonable thing.
Like another thing too, I don't know if you remember this, but remember back in '89 when Bill Frieder took the job from West Michigan to go to Arizona State, and Frieder said he's going to stay for the NCAA tournament. Bo Beckler fired him.
Yes.
Why can't more schools do stuff like that when coaches decide to leave and stay or do something like that? Why can't coaches be penalized?
Okay, wait a minute. So you're talking about, I remember that basketball situation. Yes, Bill Frieder he took the Arizona State job, but wanted to stick around and coach through the NCAA tournament for Michigan. And Bo Beckler says, I'm going to have a Michigan man coach my Michigan team. And famously, can't think of oh my word. I can't believe I can't remember the guy's name. Who was the coach of Florida? Steve
Fisher.
Steve Fisher. Thank you. Won the national championship. They beat Seton Hall in overtime. Anyway, well, that happens all the time, that there's a decision made by the school or the coach. The coach leaves. The coach takes off, and in some instances they stick around for the bowl game. Other instances that's up to the school and that's up to the coach. If they both agree on the same thing, then that's what happens. But if they don't, they don't. Well, what are you wanting to have happen?
Me personally, I mean, it's gonna happen regardless because coaches do it all the time. But do you think they should maybe do something to where they get like? Cause I know a lot of them have a buyout, but do you think it is to be? How can I say this? To where it has to be an outrageous thing, and if they can't afford their buyout, they have to stay at the university or something.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, Michael. You've kind of lost me on this situation. Give me an example. It doesn't have to even have to be a real example. What happened?
Okay. Say like for example, like Lincoln Riley. He left for USC, right?
Yes.
Or Brian Kelly left for LSU. If they couldn't afford the buyouts, couldn't the university do something and say like, hey, okay, you can't afford the buyout. We're going to like deduct a year off your contract or something like that, or maybe do it to where they can do some kind of administrative suspension or something.
Well, obviously the new employer can afford the buyout. Otherwise they wouldn't get the coach.
No, not like say the school, say the coaches itself have to do the buyout, pay for the buyout.
Again, for some reason, you've lost me on this situation. Why would the coach have to pay out his own buyout if his new employer is willing to pay out his buyout?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. But I mean, like, say, like, if the school wasn't going to do the buyout, stuff like that, is what I'm asking. I'm trying to see how I can make it sound more reasonable, but I'm drawing a blank. I'm drawing a serious blank right now. And this is not good.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Michael. I'm just not following your situation and applying it to anything that's reasonable or that's happening in real life. Mm-hmm. And maybe I'm not listening to it, hearing it correctly. So anyway, anything else on your mind?
No, not that. Just say congrats to Gus Malzahn for winning the game tonight and dominating against Florida.
All right. Thanks, Michael.
All right.
You have a good night.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you as well.
Bye. Thanks.
Okay, we see this play out a number of different ways. It usually plays out that if the coach is fired, so we've seen it play out where a coach gets fired the day after the season's over, his team's going to a bowl game, and the university wants him to stay on to coach through the bowl game, and he says, screw you, I'm not. And he's gone because he doesn't have to. He just got fired. Or the university says, we're letting you go. There's a decent relationship between the two parties. They want him to stay through the bowl game. He decides, yes, I'd like to stay with my team through the bowl game. We've seen that happen as well. Okay. We've seen situations where coaches have, we see this less and less. We used to see it more years ago. Coach gets another job after the end of the regular season. He still has what is deemed to be an important playoff run. Well, we haven't seen it during the playoffs, but an important postseason game when bowl games were deemed to be more important. And the university allowed him to stick around and finish out the whole run. And then he had a promise to his new university that he was going to split time between the two jobs, and he coaches through the bowl game. We see this right now with Dan Lanning at Georgia and others. Okay. Then again, we see situations where coaches leave, get another job following the end of the regular season, and either the school wants them out immediately or they want out immediately. All it is needed, obviously, is one of the two, and they don't coach in the bowl game. So there's about 4 or 5 different things that can happen, and we've seen all of those play out. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to quite grasp what Michael was asking me. I think I just laid out about the 4 to 5 different ways in which we have seen this play out. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Mark, it is Reasonable Gump here.
Hey, how's it going?
Man?
Good. How you doing?
Going all right. Well, Mark, I wanted to come on here and laugh at Florida for a little bit, but I need to clear something up from 2 callers ago.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if this was a mistake on your part or if you misunderstood what he was saying, but Alabama did not have those players opt out of that Michigan game in the Citrus Bowl.
Okay.
None of them opted out. Najee Harris scored 2 touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith, each caught some touchdown. Henry Ruggs and Jalen Waddle caught passes. Miller Forrestall,
Okay.
Billingsley. All these guys played. They did not opt out and then come back for the next season.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you misunderstood that or not. But
well, is that what he communicated to me? I don't think I misunderstood anything. That's sounded like what he told me.
I did not hear him communicate. I didn't hear him say that. I think he was trying to make the point that Alabama, when they missed the playoffs, their team did not have players opt out left and right. All those first round guys still played in the bowl
then
game.
I completely missed his point. I remember somebody. I remember somebody not playing in that game. I think it was a corner for Alabama.
Trayvon Diggs.
Trayvon Diggs didn't play.
It was Trayvon Diggs.
But other than that, I didn't remember all those other things. But and I watched the game, but I don't recollect everything about every game, so I didn't dispute it. I was thinking, I don't really remember that happening, but I guess it did. And those guys came back and played for the national championship the next year. So I don't know where we miscommunicated there, but I thought I reiterated everything I heard out of his mouth.
He was just making a point that a lot of Alabama fans, and rightly so, I believe, are proud of, is that all those guys, when you have teams like Georgia who have half their guys sitting out and they go blow it against Texas, or Florida doing the same thing against Oklahoma, all of our guys said, no, screw that. We want to win a national title. We're going, we're here to play. So, and that was like a special part of that team last year. Is why a lot of us love the 2020 year so much. Is all of those guys, with the exception of Mac Jones, could have been making millions in the NFL, but they felt like they didn't perform the way they were supposed to in 2019. And of course, Tua got hurt, and although that is a major part of what happened as well. But so, anyway, I just wanted to clear that up.
Well, thank you for doing that, because we always want to be accurate here.
Yeah.
But I anyway, was lost on that. Okay.
But anyway, I wanted to come on here and laugh at Florida, but I can't do that. You know why? Because even though as hilarious as this is, and it'll probably be funnier in a few months from now when the sting is wore off, just real quick, Mark, just let me ask you, and this is just a yes or no question, is, with all due respect to Army, are they a team that is supposed to be built to drive the ball down the field in 1 minute and 11 seconds and make a game-winning score?
No,
absolutely. They are built to do exactly what they did all year and all game, which is make drives last between 5 and 8 minutes and suffocate the other team and come up with a field goal or maybe a touchdown. I mean, Missouri could not have played any worse defense, particularly in the second half of that game. And that was embarrassing.
So
they should have won that game with that touchdown. And, the 2-point conversion, that was a really ridiculously bad throw. But still, 1 minute and 11 seconds, you're going to let Army throw all over you. You're going to give them a 15-yarder there. That was embarrassing.
Well, I got to think what was going through my mind at the time was, okay, Missouri's getting closer and closer and closer to scoring, and there's still like 1:45 left in the game. And I was thinking, my split second initial reaction was, they can take their time here. Take your time. Don't score too soon. Take your time. And then I thought, well, this is obviously the team where this means less against than anybody. They're not playing, some prolific offense. So whether they score with 1:10 or 42 seconds or whatever, it probably doesn't matter. It's not going to be enough time. So I was on one hand thinking they should be wasting some time here and taking their time, but then they throw the touchdown pass with like 1:10, and I thought my initial reaction was it shouldn't matter. Then I thought, well, Army only needs a field goal, and so they are going to have some time here. And if they get a decent kickoff return, which they did, all right. And once they got that kickoff return out there, I was like, man, this is stupid what Missouri did. They had every opportunity to manage that clock better on offense.
You notice they kept running. They were consistently getting 6 to 7 yard plays, but they would always go out of bounds every time. And I was thinking the same thing as you. I'm like, guys, you're either close to or you're in the red zone now. You have complete control of this game. You don't need to keep stopping the clock right now. You can run the ball. Did you notice they didn't run the ball once?
Well,
when they were down there,
exactly. They got a first down. I believe it was at either the 4 or the 5 yard line. They had a first down, and I thought Missouri against Army can't run the ball 4 times, and they've got all the time in the world. So you can run you can run the ball, and I think that I almost called him dumb, but the one of the announcers. First of all, was that the game? Yes. The play-by-play announcer was, I believe, the worst play-by-play announcer I've ever heard on a network broadcaster in my life.
Horrendous.
Absolutely unbelievable.
Horrendous.
Couldn't even pronounce Lockheed Armed Forces Bowl going to break a few times. Anyway, it was unbelievably bad. It was horrible. So I don't want to pick on the individual. I don't know their name, but I just know that was an abomination to network broadcasting. It was something that you would have heard on
several comments to my wife last night. I made several comments to my wife during the game that this isn't the B team ESPN has doing this game. This is like the G or the F team or the H team that's doing this game right now. They were terrible.
I was thinking the only time I've ever heard a play-by-play announcer this bad is on like cable access. Like I just couldn't believe it. It was so bad. So anyway, I believe the analyst, whomever that was, made a statement when they got that first down that they had to throw the ball. The running game is eliminated. You can't run the ball. And I'm thinking, why can't you run the ball? You got plenty of time. Run the ball. Yeah, it was bad.
To be honest, Mark, the way that they were running, at least in the first half, there's a very significant chance they run the ball and they run it right into the end zone. I mean, Missouri was their O-line was pushing them around for a good bit of the time. So even if it only takes you one play to do it, at least you don't have the risk of an interception.
Yes.
Like I think one of them actually came pretty close down there.
Did you see the reaction of Eli Drinkwitz after they scored the touchdown? He thought he won the game. Like he's going crazy, pumping his fists, slapping people. I don't know how to read this guy because he's got a good quip here and there. He's fun to talk to. He's good on these I see him on Feinbaum. I see him on some other shows, and he's kind of fun to talk to. And he's not your typical football coach at that level. He seems kind of laid back and so forth. Mm-hmm. But at the same time,
he had the most epic troll job ever when he did the "May the Force be with you."
Yes,
to Dan Mullen.
Exactly. So he'll do things like that. But at the same time, hey, they also had a shot of him. So this is after they scored the touchdown. Their defense is getting shredded. This is after about 2 or 3 chunk plays, and it's getting precariously close to field goal range. And they show him, they had this odd angle from the sideline kind of behind him and show him with his arm around the quarterback, kind of yucking it up, and he's slapping him on the chest. And I'm thinking, you're about to lose this game. Are you paying attention?
Yeah. That was, I mean, just it's so embarrassing. I mean, they were making some statements or something that the Missouri defensive coordinator said he had not seen an option team in like 20 years or something because he was an NFL guy. I'm just like, okay, so what? That's your job. And this isn't like you played Florida one week and then you have to turn around and play Army the next week, so you only got 5 days to get ready for the triple option. No, you had a month. And you know what else, Mark? Missouri had a month for this game. Army had 2 weeks.
Sure.
Because remember, Army had to play Navy the week after the conference title games.
Yep.
Which was 2 weeks after Missouri's last game.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I don't care that you don't see an option variant. You had a month to study Army and figure out how they work and how to stop it. And they could. Missouri had no plan at all in that second half to stop them. It was absolutely embarrassing. Embarrassing for Missouri, although not really. They're used to it. They had won a bowl game in apparently 7 years. But certainly embarrassing for the conference because I wanted to be able to come into this Florida-UCF game and be perfectly fine with Florida getting it pushed in because at least the SEC would be 1-1. Now they're 0-2. I mean, that just looks that's not a good look. I realize they still have 11 more games, or I guess 10 more now that A&M decided they didn't want to play. But yeah. As I said, in a few more months, once that abomination of a performance wears off, the Florida proving that they are not the top program in the state will be certainly more funnier. I just wish Dan Mullen had been on the sideline for it. That's the only good thing that would have made it better.
Yeah, the more I think about, you're raising some great points about that game last night, all of which I was thinking in the moment, but had kind of put away and forgotten at this point. But yeah, from the broadcast team to the actual decisions on the field by Missouri, just a comedy of errors all over the place.
Hey, at least we know now why. Well, actually, we already knew, but we got confirmation why Tennessee decided to cancel their game against Army. Apparently, they were afraid they'd lose it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I was watching that game as well, and was thinking, do other people listen to games like I do? Because, of course, because of my background, maybe I listen a little bit more and pay attention to production quality and that sort of thing. And I'm thinking, does your average fan pick up on how bad these people are?
It was not just you. It was not just you. I'm not sure if you've spoken to anyone else with the same opinion, but at least now tonight you and I are kindred spirits on this one. That was a horrendous. That was their like grad student team that they sent in to do this whole game. Apparently. All right. One other quick thing here. So you probably talked a lot to people this season because it's been a pretty bad epidemic. And I'm not talking about coronavirus. I'm talking about the epidemics of faking injuries on the field.
Yes.
You've probably seen it a lot. You probably talked about it a lot. It was a pretty big deal in the Tennessee and Ole Miss game. But both sides were doing it. There's actually video proof of like a player trying to run to the sideline and the coach on the sideline waving his arms, saying, "Get down, get on the ground." And the player just say, "Oh, okay," and he just collapses. So a lot of people have said that, okay, from now on, if play has to be stopped for an injured player, they should have to sit out the rest of that series or even the rest of that quarter. Something like that. And I'm not even against any of that because, in my opinion, if you are really injured, should you be playing in the rest of that series, or should we have you take it easy for a little bit and just make sure you're okay, right? But I got an idea that'll maybe kind of curb the bad PR of a decision like that. So tell me what you think of this. So you know how the defense cannot substitute unless the offense does, which allows for hurry-up offenses to basically just wear the defense out because it keeps them on the field, and the offense can just dictate the pace of the game. So the defensive players sometimes, if you are certain teams, they decide to just lay down and fake an injury in order to slow the offense down. So that's the only thing they feel they can do. Well, what if we made it to where every first down, okay, it doesn't matter if it takes you 3 or 4 downs or if you go 1st and 10 and you make a 12-yard pass and it's first down again. Every first down, the defense is allowed to substitute, irregardless of what the offense does. That means the offense can hurry up in between first down. They can hurry up on 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. But every first down, it's the defense that gets to substitute. So it keeps putting a kind of a pause if a team tries to keep doing this hurry up offense. What do you think? What do you think of something like that? Does it sound like something viable?
So most of the time, defenses want to change personnel based on down and distance. Yeah, that I can't think of anything off the top of my head that would make that not work, unreasonable. So that would curb that.
It's just a way to kind of help, like you said, curb it without necessarily start imposing like penalties for, maybe in some cases real injuries. Or, I've read people who played football and they said, well, the problem is the most common injury is getting the wind knocked out of you. So that'll put you on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, as soon as you get up and you're able to breathe again, then you're okay. It doesn't linger. So they're like, then there's really no reason for you to be kept out for an entire series if it's just something like that. So it's a really slippery slope. But I think the response that we have been having, which is to do nothing because we can't police it. There's no way to determine if it's real or not. That we got to do something. We can't just allow this to continue because it's an embarrassment to the sport, in my opinion. One of the very reasons I hate watching soccer is not only because it's boring as hell, but it's because they flop all the time. They'll do like slow motion videos where the guy didn't get touched at all, but he's on his ass with his hand, with his leg in the air, holding his ankle, screaming like he got shot or something. I'm not saying football players are doing that, but you know what I mean. Like, it's not honorable. It's not honest. It kind of, maybe I'm just old fashioned or something, but if a coach told me to fake an injury, I might tell him where he can shove it. I mean, I don't think I could go home and look myself in the mirror and, feel like a man if I knew I cheated, particularly in such a weakling, cowardly kind of way, I mean, am I alone in this? Does it disgust you when you see that? Or
Sure, it's not good sportsmanship. It's not. You're not being a real man. Let's be competitive and let's play by the rules of the game and not fake things and make things up. Absolutely. All right, man. I'm going to let you go address a few things as well, but I appreciate the call.
Man. No problem. See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right. We've got a slew of idiots in the live chat tonight. Boy, Cheryl's had to deal with a lot here. So we're just catching up with some of this, and I got to hide that and delete that. And she's deleted a lot of stuff. And so it must be Christmas time or something. We've had this issue the last few call-in shows with more morons that have nothing better to do, complete idiots out there that are getting into the middle of our college football discussion. So by the time I caught up to it, it was all over the place. So our first slew of people were the political morons that were going back and forth with their political comments. So hopefully those people are blocked out, and then we get these other idiots coming in here with profanity and other crazy things that they're saying. All right. So for some reason, on the main screen that I'm using the application to post the comments and do all the things that I do here, it was not, I was hung up constantly. I had the block button, kept pushing it, and it was saying, refresh the page. You cannot do this. Refresh the page. Well, if I refresh the page, I knock us off the air, so I can't refresh the page. So YouTube was not letting me block anyone. So then I opened it up over here and was able to block some folks. Yes. So, yeah. Hopefully this will die down. And I guess I'll have to make a plea for moderators. I've got like 10 moderators, but just none of them do their job or show up. So I don't even know who those people are besides Cheryl, who's the one person who shows up and does her job. And it's not a job, obviously. So I'm not criticizing those people that are moderators because, they have no obligation. I'm not paying them. They don't have an obligation, but they ask to be moderators. So there's like 9 or 10, but I never see them on here. And so nobody's doing any moderating except, God bless Cheryl. Goodness gracious. So if you want to be a moderator, contact me at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. So if you would like to be a moderator, please contact me at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. We will try to make you a moderator, which for some reason has been difficult too. There was one person in particular I was trying to make a moderator, and anyway, I won't go through the whole process, but YouTube was making it difficult to give them moderator. Robert, you can become a mod by contacting me. That's how you can become a mod. But Robert, anyway. Yeah, you don't need to be here all the time. So a dependent fanatic is saying I'm here a lot, but not all the time. Yeah, I wouldn't expect you to be here every time I do a show. Just whenever you're here, that could be once a month, but it would just help Cheryl and also help me. But yeah, if I deem that I can trust you based on being here a lot, and then we'll talk about what we're looking out for. Yes, Michael, I've tried to give you the wrench. You're probably the person I'm talking about. All right. Not Use Dexter says make all the normies mods. Well, we can do that if I got your Gmail address. That's what I need. I need your Gmail address to make you a mod. Otherwise, I can't do that. All right, let's get to our next call. Here at the Voice of College Football, would love to get some sponsors too. We need mods. We need sponsors. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Mark.
That's my name.
You don't know? It's
Yes.
George.
I know it's George. Hey, George.
Okay. You don't know this. Cheryl doesn't have the authority to block these people permanently. Only you can do it unless you give her the authority.
Yeah.
And there's a button there where they can. Yeah, you got to fix that.
I don't know how to do that, so I'm going to have to find out how to give her that authority.
Yeah, something to do in the future over the next few days or week or so.
Sure. I'll do it right now if I knew how to do it. Let's see.
And
here.
I don't want to be a moderator, but I'm here often enough. If you want to give me one, I'll never block no one unless can you?
Well, that kind of defeats the purpose.
I thought I could block them forever. I thought I had a choice to do that on these other channels, like permanently block them. Because when it's a porn site or something, it don't need to be for 300 seconds. It needs to be forever.
Yes.
Or if that one keeps using the N word.
Yep. You are right. You are right. Settings, permissions. Oh boy, I'm going to have to go through the whole 13-step verification process to even get into my own account here. Let's see. See what we get here. We're gonna work on Mark Rogers TV settings here while we're on the phone. Yeah, go ahead.
While you're looking at that, I want to go ahead and say congratulations to UCF. It obviously mattered to them more. I've never seen our team so flustered. I don't even know what I saw, what I was witnessing. Did you watch that game?
I did.
That was weird play calling. Is that all the plays we have? God.
Well, I got to think that you had some coaching issues, of course. So let's see here.
God.
Yeah. George, if there was any night that we need you to tell some stories, this would be the night. I'm going to do some maintenance on my site here, hopefully, and you can tell stories.
I got so many stories. All right. First, I'd like to start with the day started out good. We had Mark Rogers sing Bing Crosby. That got us all lit in the Christmas spirit.
Okay.
And it was all going great until we got partway into your chat and it all fell apart. The wheels came off. Anyway,
that's your story, George. You usually can't shut up, and now I've given you carte blanche to just talk endlessly.
That was a theatrical pause. I wasn't done.
Okay.
Anyway, I think you should take pre-deposits on Mark Rogers Sings. You could do Eddie Money. You could do Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Ronnie Millsap, Charlie Rich. You just put out an album. You could just give it to us on weekly submissions. $10. And keep the video short like the one today.
I can't get any sponsorships. I'm going to have to try to find ways to, create some revenue. You're not going to see me around here.
I can't believe Coca-Cola won't pay you to put a freaking can of Coke in front of you. Come on.
I can't find.
Call Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper's all up in college football. They'll do it. You can put a big sign behind that says Fansville. Fansville.
Here are our moderators. I've got our list of moderators right here. We've got Cheryl, of course. We've got Sparta, whoever that is. We've got Ghost AO. We've got Web Security. We got Jordan Bowman. We got Judge Juno. We got Melissa. We got NCIS Fanatic 21. We've got 8 moderators, but she's the only one that does anything.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll do it if you want. Do I have to email you?
And then it's got a list of all the people I've ever blocked. Oh, my word. There must be 100 accounts here.
Mark, I could tell you who to make a moderator. It's all these same names I see every time I come on here. There's like 20 people that are
I can't make anybody a moderator unless they give me their Gmail address. I can't make them a moderator without their Gmail address.
Dependent Fanatic says, I'm surprisingly calm after UCF.
Here we go.
Didn't you see the rest of the season? That was like a mild dose of what I just received over the last.
Here we go. We got somebody in here right now that's telling people to F off, and I hit block user, and it says an error occurred. Try refreshing the page. If I refresh the page, I knock us off the air. This is the problem with YouTube. YouTube, cooperate with me. They're the same YouTube that's going to give me like messages telling me that they're going to do all these bad things to me because they had, bad language on my show. Well, let me block people.
Unbelievable. I don't know what the answer is to this. I do know what the answer is. All your people in the chat, if we all individually block him, we won't see his messages. He won't even know he's blocked, but we won't see it. He can sit there and type all night.
I should still be able to. Well, that would be kind of funny. But at the same time, when people are telling me, hook me up and hook me, that doesn't do any good. I need your Gmail address. Send me your Gmail address at MarkRogersTV@gmail. All right. Do we have any problems going on currently? I don't see any more.
I keep telling people, all you have to do is touch their name on the screen, and it pops up 3 choices like block, report, something else, and block them and report them if you want to.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and hopefully YouTube will notice if like 30 people report the same person.
Somebody in the chat about 10 minutes ago asked me to tell a real life story, so I'm gonna tell a real life story. I got custody of my kids when they were 4 months old and 17 months old, and I raised them till they were 12 and 13. My dad used to babysit. I homeschooled them. We lived down in the country purposefully. I was a restaurant manager that became a dairy farmer, so my kids could grow up in the country, you know? And I met a woman after 14 years. The first time I touched her hand, it was electricity. When she kissed me, I melted. You know, the pheromones or whatever they call them.
I've been there. Yeah.
I went home that night when my kid's like 13 years old. He said, "Dad, I beg of you, do not do this. She's not the one, Dad." And I went ahead and married that chick. I wish I'd have listened to my kid. You know, I knew he was right when he told me to, but I just couldn't. The sway, the smell, the taste, the sex, you know. What a disaster that was. She wiped me off the face of the earth. And I'm saying this with a sense of humor to young people. If this ever happens to you, if you have that doubt in your mind, don't do it, man. Are you crazy? You already know. If you're even thinking that, you know. I couldn't believe it. Now I have 3 other kids. I never got to raise any of them. But at least they don't hate me. You know what I mean? One of them lives with me now, and the other one says he loves me, and my daughter's married off with some guy now. But I'm just saying, I had it made in the shade, and I did it. It wiped out. Disaster. That's my story for tonight. Just say no to love.
George, I feel for you. Yes.
Mark, that was 20 years ago, and you can still hear the pain in my voice. Anyway, I did some mathematical calculations. Check this shit out. The word Omicron, if you rearrange the letters, it spells moronic. Are you aware of that?
I am now, and it doesn't surprise me.
No. I got on NASA's computer. They let me use their computer. I did some calculations. It's 10 to the 25th power, the odds of Omicron spelling moronic. You follow me? It couldn't happen by accident. That would be like rolling 17,000 times in a row in a casino. It don't happen. Can't happen. It's impossible. So that's enough of that, though. Let's move to the next subject.
Okay, yeah. That's good.
Right. And check this out. When the first time they said SARS-CoV, whatever, the first time that happened, I think we look at different internets. People, depending on what you look at, you get a different kind of a live feed, you know? But one of the first things I saw was the Chinese torture manual, like literally from the Red Chinese CIA type thing, you know? And it was their torture manual. And it said, you give them something, you take it away. You give them something, you take it away. They live in constant fear. Are they going to keep it? Or are you going to take it away? It's a total humiliation and subservience. And I'm looking back 2 years and I'm thinking, has anything been given to us and taken away? Given it to us? Take it away. Give it to them. Take it away. Take it away. No. Wait. What the fuck is going on? Never mind. Don't answer that. That's a rhetorical question. All right. My next subject I want to address is this.
Okay.
Because I know you're good at college football stuff. Just off the top of your head, name one good black quarterback that's ever played for Kirby Smart. Matter of fact, name one black quarterback, period. I want to know what's going on for real. How is this even possible in this day and age? You wouldn't start Justin Fields? What's going on in Athens? Don't answer that. That's rhetorical. I'd be amazed if they don't abandon ship if you don't have a mutiny on his freaking hands. You're going to tell me you can't get a quarterback? You're going to play Stetson Bennett? Or import JT Daniels? God darn. And I don't even like Georgia, and I feel sorry for them, the fan base. Hey, Mark, check this out. Let's pull some teams out of the bowl games because they have 15 people that are asymptomatic, which means they're not sick. But the fake test said they were. The test is wrong 8 out of 10 times, according to the World Health Organization. What is going on? You know what? I'm starting to feel like Andy Rooney.
I hear you. I'm letting you roll with it. I'm trying to follow the USC's
Mark,
comment here about adding moderators, and I'm not finding any of that. Yes, George, one last thing.
That's cool.
Yeah. What
Listen
you got?
to this. How many politicians, famous politicians, have died from this shit since it started? The answer is 0. How many top rock stars? 0. How many famous movie stars? 0. How many? Just keep going and going and going and going and going and going. What's going on? I mean, at least they could fake it for us. Come on.
Yeah. Do we know any famous people?
Anyone in any field.
Away.
How about this? How about this? You go get your shots and you die of a stroke or your heart swells up or your brain bleeds, and they call it a breakthrough case, not a vaccine injury. Mark, listen to this. You can go to a website what's that place? The Center for Disease Control. It's called VAERS, 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 and put injuries from COVID vaccines. There's 1 million of them. There's like 50,000 deaths. There's never been anything we've done in this country that we didn't stop after 5 deaths, and they're up to like 50,000. And I haven't seen it on my TV once. But if you go to the CDC's website, you can see it. It's their website. Do you know what the World Health Organization says on their website? They say that the pandemic never existed. What is going on? Are we having a miscommunication here between the TV stations and the real world? What is up with the TV? They just won't stop. All right, back to football.
You've given us a lot to think about, George. It's always good stuff. Appreciate you being here.
I just want to say, God bless Rutgers. Go Rutgers. Stepping in at the last minute to play Wake Forest.
Go
taking
Rutgers.
Up the slack for big money Texas A&M. I know Texas A&M loses every game next year. I always hated Jimbo Fisher anyway.
Okay. Thanks, George. Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you soon. Appreciate you calling.
Right. Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody. Bye.
Appreciate George being here, as always. He's always here for us. All right. USC, what you just stated there, I know how to add moderators because I added Cheryl and 9 others. That's not how I've added them before, and I don't even see any kind of automated filters tab in YouTube Studio, which I'm in all the time and currently am in. I don't see any kind of automated filters tab. I don't have that, apparently. So, yeah, if somebody wants to be a moderator, send me your Gmail account. Your Gmail address to my Gmail address, which I hope everybody that gives a damn knows what it is because I say it all the time. MarkRogersTV at Gmail. MarkRogersTV at Gmail. There it is. All right. What a night. Rutgers is playing on New Year's Day in a bowl game. UCF owns the state of Florida. Hawaii screwed up the Hawaii Bowl by having too many COVID results that probably don't matter anyway. And we've got a college football playoff that's at risk. All right. Appreciate everybody being here. I will not be here on New Year's, Christmas Eve, maybe Christmas Day. My Christmas Day pretty much is over by noon anyway. I know there are NFL games and a college football bowl game. Georgia State's playing somebody in some pretty low-level bowl game, but we'll suffer through. And maybe we strike it up on Christmas Day. What do we say? All right. Appreciate everybody being here. The Voice of College Football. Please subscribe. Hit that bell for the notifications to know when we go live. Subscribe to our other channels, most notably West Virginia and USC would be the most important in a sense. Not that I treat all my children the same. All the channels are the same, but a little emphasis on USC and on West Virginia right now. And so subscribe to those channels. And let's get a sponsor. We've got one sponsor that we talk about most of the time here, the Get Business Credit, which I did a poor job of sponsoring and promoting tonight. But I will give them much more than agreed upon to make up for that. So sponsors right here at the Voice of College Football. Sponsors, moderators, hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. And of course, watch all those great videos I produce all the time. And we will see you maybe Christmas Day. Merry Christmas. I hope, don't take any offense to this. Understand that this is coming from a pure heart. I hope and believe, and I hope more than anything that you are entrusting your Christmas time and believing what is truly right concerning Christmas. But even if you don't, I hope you have a great weekend celebrating in any manner that you do. And we will see you again, maybe on Christmas Day. If not, we're going nuts next week, because next week is truly bowl week. Power 5 matchups, good games every day. I'm going to be watching tons of football, but I got to be here talking to you as well and want to be here talking to you. So we will be here all next week. We should have 1,000 people on the line. We're around 200 tonight, 230. Man, 1,000. We pushed past 1,000 when these coaches got hired and fired and all of that Lincoln Riley, Brian Kelly mess. We should have like 2,000 people on here for bowl games and championship week and college football playoffs. So let's do that. Bring some folks in here. We'll be here all next week, and we hope you will be here as well. Here at the Voice of College Football. See you next time. Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!